réseau à la prod.
Put her in a spell. Call me Harry Potter. Now I'm fucking on your daughter. Put her in a spell. Now I got her acting naughty, and she all up on my body. Put her in a spell. Call me Harry Potter. Now I'm fucking on your daughter. Put her in a spell. Now I got.
What it is, what it do, crew. You already know what to do. Hit that like button, smash the subscribe button, and hit the bell to know when more content is here. In this video, we are covering the professors of Hogwarts Legacy. First up, Matilda Weasley, the Transfiguration Professor of Gryffindor House. Matilda Weasley is an exceptionally talented witch with a background as a curse breaker for the Ministry, known for her composure and extraordinary wand work. She is a firm but fair Transfiguration Professor and a slightly intimidating, well-respected Deputy Headmistress. Professor Weasley has been tasked with getting the player up to speed in their studies and introduces them to the Wizard's Field Guide and the Room of Requirement, both of which are invaluable resources for a fifth year with a great deal to learn. She is voiced by Leslie Nichol, who has a background in film starring in works like Downton Abbey, Ghostbusters, and The Chronicles of Narnia. Being the Professor of Transfiguration, she will more than likely be the professor who teaches us how to turn enemies into chickens. Next up is Aesop Sharp, the Potions Professor of Slytherin House. The gruff and keenly astute Professor Sharp enjoyed a lengthy and successful career as an Auror until an injury forced him from the field. Not wanting to push parchment around in the desk of the Ministry, Sharp decided that his time would be better spent sharing his extensive experience involving battle-worthy draughts and elixirs with the students at Hogwarts. Not easily impressed and wholly unwilling to suffer fools, he takes a genuine pride in students who excels in his class despite his challenging curriculum. Our herbology professor is Mirabel Garlick of Hufflepuff House. London-born Professor Garlick grew up in a household full of muggles and didn't really feel at home until she studied at Hogwarts. In fact, she will tell you that it was at the famed School of Witchcraft and Wizardry she finally blossomed herself and discovered her extraordinary affinity for magical plants. Her sunny demeanor and flowery language charms colleagues and students alike, prompting some students to worry that she would one day leave for another greenhouse. But Mirabel Garlick would never leave her students. So even if the White Witch came along, she'd simply have to love Hogwarts as much as Mirabel does. Professor Garlick will be charged with the duties to educate us in magical plants that we can use for combat, such as mandrake roots. Charms class will be run by Abraham Ronan of Slytherin House. Jovial and lighthearted with a perpetual twinkle in his eye, Professor Ronan considers his students' friendships and extracurricular activities to be just as important as the subject of charms itself. In response to being tutored by a rather austere father before and during his years at Hogwarts, he developed a passion for games of all forms, particularly gobstones. He allegedly met his wife during an especially lively gobstones tournament. To the delight of most of his students, his unorthodox teaching style often incorporates gameplay. His teaching style may be reflective in teaching us spells like Accio in this class. Our Defense Against the Dark Arts professor is Dinah Hecat of Ravenclaw House. The stern but likable Professor Hecat takes her teaching responsibilities quite seriously. After a successful career in the Ministry of Magic, during which she is rumored to have spent time in the Department of Mysteries, she retired to become Hogwarts Defense Against the Dark Arts professor. Though she is happy to be at Hogwarts, some believe her hands-on teaching methods satiate a desire for action. Professor Hecat will be teaching us the many defensive spells that we will use in combat, be it in class or generally throughout Hogwarts Legacy. Our headmaster is Phineas Nigellus Black of Slytherin House. Phineas Nigellus Black, who to this day remains the least popular headmaster Hogwarts has ever known, makes little effort to hide his utter disdain for his students. He is a cantankerous, lazy, and vain pureblood with a myopic view of the world, and a condescending and unjustifiably superior attitude. Wildly ill-suited to his job, his goal is to do the least amount of work possible and avoid exposure to the student body, preferring to focus on his status in the wizarding world and his surgically manicured beard. He is voiced by none other than Simon Pegg, whom you may know from Shaun of the Dead at the Star Trek and Mission Impossible movies. He is likely the antagonist of our story, alongside the other dark wizards and evil goblins and dark forces we will face throughout the game. Phineas Nigellus Black also seems like he will have an issue with the professor that will guide us throughout the main story the most. This brings us to Professor Eleazar Fig of Gryffindor House. The magical theory professor at Hogwarts left behind his aspirations of working for the Ministry of Magic to follow his wife, Miriam, around the world as she researched the seeming disappearance of ancient magic. Fig eventually grew weary of this quest and left her to continue on her own while he took on the job of magical theory professor at Hogwarts. When Miriam was killed during her travels, Fig felt responsible because he was not there, a guilt that haunts him to this day. He is determined to understand why and how she died and to finish her work. Fig is a kind, knowledgeable professor and will be one of the players' greatest allies during their time at Hogwarts, with respect to the trials that they will both face inside and outside the castle walls. We may have a professor for broom riding. We see a clip, but there's no name that has been confirmed. We do, however, know the names and voices behind other professors, such as Professor One, Professor of Divination and mother of our Gryffindor companion, Netse One, and voiced by Candace Kane, who acted in Human Centipede 2. Another professor we know is our astrology professor, Satyavati Shah, voiced by Som Kapila. We see a screenshot of her here in class. Last known professor is Professor Benz, the ghostly history of magic professor who's been featured in other games. Think you're ready to start your year at Hogwarts? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.